Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with two great guests positively impacting our community. Today, I welcome one OC Learning and Engagement Manager, Jennifer Sanghera, and Director of Nonprofit Services, Robert Coleman. The organization celebrated its 65th anniversary last year. Its mission is to accelerate nonprofit success. Thank you, Jennifer and Robert, for being on Impact OC.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for the invite.
Well, Robert, how is one OC able to inspire connections between companies and nonprofits?
You know, that's a great question. And what we're finding today is that companies really want to have their employees engage in the community. They want them to participate, and employees are really picking companies to work for that want to engage in companies that are more than just about what the company is for, but actually to be a participant in the community. And so we find it enhances teamwork within the companies and morale. And so we provide a whole range of different opportunities for companies and their employees to actively engage with nonprofits locally through service contracts, through programs, through helping nonprofits in all sorts of different ways. And it's an inspiring thing to see and to experience.
Jen, go through some of the benefits one OC offers to nonprofits.
So our membership is the entry point to 1OC for our nonprofits, and we accelerate nonprofit success. Oh, sorry. I will walk through some of those membership services. We have Grant Station, which is an online database that has tens of thousands of grant opportunities for our nonprofits. Also Hands-on Connect, which is a management system that allows volunteers to retain, recruit, and manage their volunteers. We have organizational assessments that we provide. We have our 1OC job board where our members can post open positions if they're looking to recruit and hire some new folks in the nonprofit sector. And we have kind of just an array of services. So that's kind of where I'll start.
Why don't you talk about some of those services?
So some other of our services is really our community engagement team, which is a team of experts at 1OC that helps to place skill-based volunteers with our nonprofit members. And that can look at, if you think of a regular job position, it's just like that, but for volunteers. So they could help with marketing, they can help with all kinds of different positions, data entry, running events, or even some kind of like networking collaborator as well, which is great.
And Robert, explain how one OC serves the community in terms of nonprofits to ensure that they thrive in the endeavors of making a positive and lasting difference in the communities you serve.
You know, in Orange County, we have over 9,000 nonprofits serving 9,000 different missions. And part of our mission is how do we help them? How do we help them serve their mission in an even in a more impactful way? And so the services that Jen's just described and some others that I'm going to go on to describe are all about how do we help our nonprofits be the best they can be for the missions and the people that they serve and have greater impact. One of the things that we find particularly with smaller and mid-sized nonprofits is when they have to do their accounting, for example, everyone has to do it. If you're a nonprofit, you have to do an audit every year. You have to do a tax return every year to the IRS. There's a whole back office piece to running a nonprofit. It's not just all the mission related work. We have to look after the money. The donors need to trust us in the way we look after our money. Particularly for the smaller organizations, that can be a real challenge in terms of they're very good at the mission piece, but they need to be as good at the the non-mission, the back office piece. And so one of the things that we can do at 10C is to provide you with an accounting service. So you don't need to worry about the accounting part. We'll do that for you. We'll look after it. We'll make sure it's managed in the right way. We'll make sure we meet all the compliance needs for you when it comes to finance. For those finance people out there, we'll conform to GAAP. And so therefore that allows the non-profit to focus on where their energy wants to be directed. And we'll look after that finance piece for them. In the same vein, HR, where you've got employees maybe, or you've got volunteers, or you've got a range of independent contractors, just the whole law and legal side of HR, it can be quite a burden, particularly for the smaller organizations. And so, again, we can take that burden away from them by saying, we'll look after that for you. We can do your accounting for you. We can do your HR for you. And those are the two real big things that can really help nonprofits thrive and focus much more of their energy on the mission. Then what we think about is, well, how do we train them? What are the skills that they need to learn? I mean, there's the finance skills, but each nonprofit has a board of directors. Well, how do they train their board of directors? How do they find new board members? How do they make sure that their board understands their fiduciary responsibility in terms of what does the governance look like for a nonprofit? So, one of the things that we find is people think starting a nonprofit is easy and then running one is easy. And quickly they realize that actually the starting it really was quite easy. It's just some forms, but the running of it in a responsible way that takes donors' money and uses it in a responsible way, it is actually quite more consuming in terms of effort and skills. And so we have a nonprofit learning center that focuses on some of those skills and how we can educate and help our nonprofit colleagues really be the very best, not only in terms of program and mission, but also in terms of their fiduciary responsibility, because that is where, when you've got the confidence for your donors in terms of how you use their valuable resources, then they're more likely to continue to be donors and support you in your mission.
Jen, how do you connect nonprofits with businesses?
So we connect nonprofits with businesses through our CSR program, our community responsibility program, and that really has the connector piece of finding businesses that would like to do some volunteer work, and the nonprofits benefit from that. So it is a good kind of fusion between the two, that it's team building and networking for the businesses, and then the nonprofits as well get drawn into the community and be able to really find that like synergy between business professionals and nonprofit professionals to be able to collaborate together.
We also have a program called V-Lead, which is where we bring companies and nonprofits together in a 6-week training course. And this is where they learn about each other, where the nonprofits learn about how companies see the world of nonprofits. We talked a little earlier about how nonprofits need to recruit board members. So it creates a relationship between nonprofits and companies, because one of the things that we find, and if you look at the 10C board of directors, it's an incredible array of individuals who not only are passionate about our mission of accelerating nonprofit success, but they bring with them a range of skills and competencies and experiences that is really quite unbelievable. And we get great value as an organization to bring these people around the table with us and to encourage them to use them, bring those skills to help us make better decisions, help us to strategize, help us to plan for the future. And so this VD program is doing the same. It's bringing the company individuals alongside with nonprofit individuals, and they have a dialogue. They learn about each other. And at the end of it, what we do is we do have a placement service. So for those companies who have sent people to do this course, what we really want to be able to do is to then say, let's continue by being a board member. And maybe we can find a non-profit that you can be a board member with. Maybe you, and once you're a board member, then you become a gatekeeper. Now, there are people that you know that this non-profit doesn't know, and maybe you can introduce them to those people. Maybe there are some donors that you know that you can introduce. So connecting non-profits and companies is such a critical piece of what we do, because the benefits are immeasurable in terms of how that non-profit will continue to grow and thrive.
And many nonprofits sometimes don't make it.
Unfortunately, that is the case. If you look at these 9,000, what we learn is the vast majority of them have little finance, probably don't have any full-time or part-time staff, and just really struggle day in, day out to keep the mission alive and growing. And so that's why we feel for them and where they are. And that's why I think our role is with that group, because we can take away some of that burden from you, as I described a little earlier. And now you can flourish in your programs. And I'll give you one example. One of the services that we provide is called fiscal sponsorship. And that is where you don't actually have to become a non-profit. You can come alongside 10C, and in effect, we will be your non-profit for you. And one of our fiscal projects that we have is with a local church. And every Monday morning, he feeds 3,000 families who have nothing, who are desperate. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, all of these volunteers arrive, and they start to pack boxes with food, with vegetables, with a whole variety of different foods for these people to collect. So we help them with their find volunteers. We help them because we do their finance for them. They have a vehicle where they go and collect many food donations. We help them by looking after their vehicle. And then at 12 o'clock or thereabouts, lunchtime, 3,000 people over the next couple of hours turn up, and this project gives them a box full of nutritional food for that family to feed and to survive off of. And so that's just one way of how we connect not only projects to the community, but we connect companies to those projects because they come alongside and they do the voluntary work. So it's a wonderful synergy and web of connection. And at the end of the day, when you think about who's the winner here, it's the person on the street in this particular example who without it would be hungry. But because we do all of this, because we do the finances at 10C, because we do the HR, because we support this project, and because that project has a valuable mission, together we get to make a difference. And together, because of that difference, people aren't going hungry. Actually, they're surviving.
I want you to explain what it takes to start a nonprofit, because you were just saying before that many people have a notion, they start a nonprofit, but there's more to it. So why don't you just kind of give us a little talk about
insight.
that?
Sure. So the process is really quite simple to start a nonprofit. The first thing you have to do is register, if it's in California, a public benefit company. And then once you've registered the company, then you fill a form in, 1023 is what it's called, and you apply to the IRS to ask them to recognize this company as a public benefit corporation and to give it tax exempt status. And if the IRS approves, they give it a term, and it's called a 501c3. So once you get that designation letter, what in effect that means is if someone then gives you a donation, that person who is donating some funds can add that to their tax return at the end of the year. So now you've set up the non-profit, but you now need to have bylaws. You now need to recruit a board of directors.
Explain what a board of directors is to a nonprofit.
So a board of directors is a group of volunteers who have fiduciary responsibility for all of the activities. They are the ones that are accountable for the activities of the non-profit. And that's why you have to have directors and officers liability insurance. You have to have all sorts of rules and procedures and policies that define governance, that define your financial controls and compliance. So all of these things come along with running a successful non-profit. People think, though, that running a non-profit is just the mission. I just want to feed people. Just let me feed people, or let me support, pets who need, help, or work with children, or some of my experiences have been in the past working with people coming out of the incarceration. How do they get back into homes? How do they get a job? How do we reintegrate them back into society so they don't reoffend again? So often I think people have a sort of a naive view that actually just starting a non-profit means I can just get right into the mission and I don't have to worry about anything else. And it's not that you have to worry about it, but there's a right and a wrong way. And that's where our programs, that's why membership of 10C is so critical, because we help you understand what that right way looks like, and we will come alongside you and have that journey with you.
So Jennifer, explain when a nonprofit says, we want to start a nonprofit, we need help. What is it that you do for intake?
So for our membership services, we will connect them with different services that I mentioned previously, and really link them to our nonprofit learning center as well. So they'll have access to different trainings, professional development, board excellent courses, as well as grant writing. We even have a course that's called How to Start a Nonprofit, to get that training on what they need to do for their organization, and also just professional development, always, enhancing what you have, your skills. So I think that's kind of in a nutshell.
What surprises many of the nonprofits in terms of the work that's involved that they didn't anticipate?
The work that's involved.
That they didn't anticipate.
They didn't.
They have an idea, they have a great heart, but then they move forward, and then.
And Dawn, I've had many conversations with people who have come in, and their question has been, I want to start a non-profit. And so we have this conversation about what that means. And then we mention to them, actually, you don't need to do any of that if you don't want to, because we have this other program called fiscal sponsorship. If you'd like, we can be your non-profit. And 10 times out of 10, when they hear about it, they say, I would rather do it that way than have to do it all myself. And it's a good way for people to understand what it means to run a non-profit without the technical side of running a non-profit. And it may be 3 or 4 years down the line, they've grown. And now they say, you know what, we're strong enough. We have some stature to our organization. Now we want to become our own non-profit, and so they can emancipate out. There's a non-profit in Orange County that today is a $60 million non-profit that works with housing and homelessness. Their first 5 years, they were a fiscal project of 10C. So they went from nothing, just an idea, and today they're a $50 million non-profit working in many places in Orange County. So that is possible if you have a dream and you have a plan to implement that dream and to do things in the right way.
But of course, nonprofits rely on volunteers. Mm-hmm. So share with us the transformative power of volunteers and how to encourage volunteers to participate with these nonprofits.
There's no greater service than to serve. And one of the things that we've learned, that we learn every day and that we experience every day, is the way in which people want to serve. So often they don't know how. They don't know where do I go? I want to be a volunteer, but I don't know how to start. I don't know whether my skills are going to be helpful to anybody. Sometimes I got a real skill that's, we call them skill-based volunteers. So they're very good at finance, or they're very good at website design, or they're very good at social media, and they want to volunteer in a certain way. Other people want to volunteer like the minister that I was talking about, where they would just want to pack food boxes. So, and there's everything in between those two areas, I suppose, in terms of people who they can volunteer. So we have online, it's called Hands-On Connect, where you can actually go and see what volunteer opportunities are available, and you can sign up for them. We create volunteers through our company CSR programs, where companies will come alongside a nonprofit and volunteer. They'll do a particular activity. And then just recently we had an event where the companies and nonprofits came together and had games together. It was a couple of Saturdays ago, and it was just the most amazing active. 600 or 700 people turned up, and they all had fun together. And it's a good way of where the nonprofits get to meet some of those companies who are actively engaged and want to participate in the community. And then we have our Spirit of Volunteerism Awards. Again, 600 or 700 people will turn up, and this is an opportunity where we get to honor volunteers. We get to say thank you to them for what they're doing and the inspiration that they are, not only in their own community, but this is a very public way of acknowledging the impact that volunteers have every day.
Jennifer, how can people get in touch with your organization?
So our website is oneoc.org, oneoc.org.
Thank you, One OC Learning and Engagement Manager Jennifer Sanghera and Director of Nonprofit Services Robert Coleman, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.